Hello everyone, Reverend619 here. How the devil are you? On today's video, I'm going to be looking at the Officer archetype, which is what you play as your Acolyte character in the Dark Heresy Alpha. Now, I've spent some time playing this on both states, and I've done 2 complete run-throughs that are on the channel, as well as several other runs. However, I wanted to start discussing what my first impressions were going through this, and I thought, why not go through the level up screen so we could really look at things and sort of discuss what my thoughts and feelings are section by section between abilities, talents, upgrades, specialization, and modifications. The Imperial Noble Origin Officer that you play as your Acolyte, when he first level ups, he gets access to 3 potential abilities, as well as coming in with the Scorn ability from his default archetype, which I'll talk about in a little bit, as well as having access to break their ranks and bring it down. Yes, extra turns are back, but buffs are not built in. Now, when you start this, you can take Voice of Command, which the target ally gains 2 morale for 1 round. The officer ignores distance and line of sight when using their ability. So this now becomes a morale boost rather than a stat boost. Take aim still works kind of the same. The officer gains 10 plus the officer's willpower bonus, hit chance, and X attacks. That means that we're going to probably be looking at fellowship and willpower for officers now to make them a little bit more multi-attribute dependent, and break their ranks. The officer increases damage dealt by an ally during their next turn by the officer's fellowship bonus percentage and twice that value against armor. Now, these are just the start, and we're going to start looking at how this level system works. I'm going to pick Voice Command for now and then go into our talent selection. Now, it starts with group by type, and I kind of don't like this view, but group by source is a fantastic view. This makes me very happy. Now, your specialists that come in, if we actually have a look at this level up here, see, we get specializations at level 3 and level 6 here, and the next one at level 14 and level 19, but chances are we get a new archetype before then. That would change what we have access to. But as you can see, as we level up, we'll get some features coming in, and I believe these features are our first 2 features, probably the Bring It Down and the other one. And then obviously you get your first specialization, which in the alpha is locked at level 3, or you're locked to level 5 depending on which state you start in, and you also pick up abilities and upgrades as you go through. So looking at some of these, the way Combat Morale Specialist, it works around morale. So morale goes from -10 to +10, and what it can do is when it's negative, you take extra damage and you can provoke attacks of opportunity when you try to attack, as well as being broken. And at +10, it gives you heroic actions that, depending on your archetype, can give you all sorts of crazy effects. Manipulating morale is just as important as manipulating momentum in Road Trader, so this is stuff you're going to want to focus on. So this first Combat Morale Specialist is a very good one in itself. We also have access to our Origin talents coming in here. Now, a lot of the Noble's Origin talent seems to be work around killing enemy commanders and non-trash mobs, as well as doing extra damage based on the enemy's morale. So having something that can manipulate morale is going to be quite good. But it also has stuff about your influence. Now, your influence is going to be the zone of control around your character, which is normally 2 for a normal character, so 2 cells around them counts as their influence, which is their melee attack zone, or 1 if you're an Ogren, because they're 2x2. But you also get stuff for like killing non-disposable stuff to get more morale. Hopefully this means that we'll be able to build Imperial Noble into sort of a mixed attacker, as well as just going snipers. But one thing I have learned is precision weapons like sniper rifles have been buffed so much that you can do obscene damage, even as an officer, without any damage talents coming in here. In fact, nearly all of the damage you'll see from alpha screenshots for Operative actually doesn't use any Operative talents or abilities. It is all just precision gear and other things coming in and around that, especially around the Operative Heroic. But even without the Heroic, you can still be doing 100 to 200 damage vital points shots. Now, the abilities that we actually get access to for Officer are going to be pretty familiar. One's going to be based on increasing your range based on your fellowship bonus. Another one is if the officer removes any number of damage over time, critical status, or broken effects from target ally, that ally gains plus morale from each effect move this way. Now, you can get stuff to remove dots on some of your abilities, so we'll look at that in the upgrades, but that is something that we can use there. Lead the Assault is another really good one. You increase your base morale, which is going to be by your willpower bonus, and you increase the morale of your allies. This is going to be very useful for also manipulating morale in the battle. Officers are, like I said, are just as important as they were in the last one. Another one here, personal oversight. If the officer granted an ally an extra turn, that target has +2 MP and gains 1 morale at the start of each turn for the rest of combat. So yeah, this is going to be another really good one for using stuff like voice of command and whatnot. Seize the initiative. If an ally under the effect of the officer's ability kills an enemy for the first time in their turn, the officer gains +1 morale. So this is going to be a quicker way that you can start getting towards your heroic actions. Finest Hour does make a return, but instead of giving a full turn, it gives just 3 AP and a little bit of MP, as as well as only one attack action, which is much more balanced. Tactical preparations here on the officer's turn, the cost of their first non-attacking ability reduced by -1 AP. Not really that useful in the start of the game because you don't really use all 4 AP, but it's probably something that's going to be better later. The officer suffers 4% less damage for each ally adjacent to them. So this is not within the influence, but this is like directly next to them. So this is one that, they've added a bit of damage reduction, but it's not the best one here. Obviously the ones that really stand out to me is going to be stuff like commanding voice, so you can get those bring it downs out there, and obviously leave the assault is another really good one, but also stuff like personal oversight and tactical preparations. They are going to be stuff to be looking at. So if we go into the next section, we'll get another talent here. So again, just going to grab personal oversight for now, or actually no, leave the assault, because yeah, being able to manipulate morale is very important. So now if we look at some of the upgrades here, we have 2 options for each of these talents. Some of them will have 3. The first one, so bring it down, the officer immediately grants an ally an extra turn with 2 AP and 0 MP. This cannot be used as the same turn as get back in the fight. And get back in the fight, the officer removes from the target ally all status effects, damage over time effects are not removed, and restores their morale to 0 if negative. That ally immediately gains an extra turn 2 AP and the officer's fellowship bonus MP. During that turn, the ally cannot expend combat points. Now, the first upgrade will give that ally +2 morale, and then it will get the extra turn, which is also very good for building up. This is very vital for keeping your optives in play. The second one, at the end of the turn, the officer gains 1 morale for each enemy killed on that turn. So if you've got someone that's going to do a lot of kills here, that's going to be quite useful. Now, this first upgrade is the one that I've been testing out the most because obviously the ally morale manipulation. One here, this one will give you extra stats coming in here. This ally ignores zones of control and doesn't suffer damage or trigger attacks of opportunity, can move through enemies and does not expend combat points during this turn. So this one's very useful for getting your ally out of that danger zone. This one will upgrade it into an actual cleanse, so it removes all damage over time, stats and broken effects from that ally. Targets also ignore all critical effects and their morale is reduced 0 as negative. That ally immediately gains an extra turn and is the same as before. So this one, if you're cleansing dots and stuff, that's going to be very useful. This one I feel like is very important in Act 1 because all the enemies seem to use flamers. Now, some of these do appear to not be written very well. So this upgrade here, all allies within the officer's influence gain +2 morale for 1 round. The officer ignores distance, line of sight, and targeting those allies for these abilities. So this one changes it to an AoE on you. Now the second one here, this one I believe actually has a typo. So all allies on 2 cell range gain +2 morale. This bit doesn't seem to work. However, the second bit is, for 1 round, all of their characteristics are increased by 5 plus the officer's fellowship bonus, and the officer ignores distance, line of sight. So this one actually turns into a stat buff that is incredibly powerful. So next we get into specializations. Now specializations is where these builds get very interesting. So if you notice, we've not had any stat increases to now. What a specialization will do is it will give you 2 characteristic modifiers and 2 skill modifiers, as well as opening you to 3 more talents and 3 more modifications, and sometimes you'll also get an ability. So say I went with attack buff specialist, so attacks made by allies within the character's influence or made against enemies within it gain fellowship bonus hit chance. So if you're up front, you'll be giving your allies more fellowship bonus to their hit chance. So this is something that's going to be quite useful for getting you in there. You also increase your fellowship and toughness, so this is probably going to be a little bit key to having that whole sword and pistols playstyle people like, as well as increasing intimidation and metal. Now it will then give us access to talents that will give us other various effects. I'm not going to spend too much time going over each individual one. That is going to be for people that have got the spreadsheet and have paid for it. So if you join my YouTube memberships at Inquisitor Tier, I am currently typing this all up into a spreadsheet to give everyone access to that, as long with all the vendor stuff, all the class stuff, and etc. Same thing that I did for Rogue Trader, but obviously for the Dark Heresy Alpha. So this one, all attacks and abilities inflict negative effects, apply suppression. Now the target suffers int plus agility bonus % hit chance penalty for 1 round. Inflicting suppression repeatedly prolongs the effect by 1 round and reduces enemy morale by 1. I found this one to be incredibly potent with the new Mystic archetype, which is for Psychers, but I'll save that for the Saras video. Yeah, this one's going to be based around that. Demoralized Specialist is another good one. So you get 5 to Fellowship here and 5 to Willpower, and you get more Intimidation and Wits. Now, you'll also get more stuff about breaking enemy morale, and it will give you morale to your party when you go for it. Another one, Medium Armor Specialist. So if you actually did want to be in the thick of things, you can actually now take talents that will allow you to get more agility bonus to your armor and to be able to be more survivable in the actual combat. So there's a lot of options and playstyles, and this isn't going to be everything in the final version. It's just what we've got in the alpha. So one of the good ones here is you can also get extra morale to allies. So this is one that I like, because if I put that in voice of command, yeah, there's a lot of extra buffs coming in here. And then we'll just come back to pick up some other ones, and then you'll come back and you'll be able to level up your skills. So you've got your new skill system coming in here. They've changed some of these skills. See these ones with the guns? These are skills that are going to be used in combat. So you've got stuff that's now governed by strength, stuff that's governed by toughness, by agility. Agility still has a lot of skills that tie to it, including your lock picking now. Your intelligence is now reduced to just 3 laws as well as tech use. You've now got some stuff on willpower, which is interrogation and metal. Metal is obviously going to be your willpower saves. And now you've got stuff down to awareness and wits, as well as intimidation and diplomacy coming in fellowship. Medicane is an interesting one here, because this one is normally affected by intelligence, but some of these skills will actually move around depending on the archetype and the character. I believe that might be something tied to character creation, but we'll need to learn a little bit more about that, especially finding out why he's using his fellowship for it, and other characters use other things, such as I've got intimidation to fellowship here, but I know another companion cog will actually use his toughness for that. So I've stuck to the level 3 start and not leveled up for now, and because I wanted to show off a little bit about how the combat will affect this character. So if I just set my companions for the start of this encounter here, I'll be going through each of these other companions in further videos, so I'm not going to discuss too much about them now, but I do want to cover a little bit about the officer, so I'm going to jump ahead from this point until I get to the officer's turn. Now, an interesting thing that we have on several of our abilities here is something called modifications. Now, I didn't go too much about them into the previous screens, but what this does is you can apply modifications to either an attack type or an ability, and it will change how they work. So for this one that is being applied to a single target attacks, the attack deals 10% more damage against non-disposable enemies, so I will do more damage to command enemies, which is something coming in from our Imperial Noble. Another one, this ability costs -1 AP if the Noble's morale is greater than 10, or more than any enemy within their influence. So this is another one that's currently not been applied to anything, but we could obviously apply it to many of these talents over to here. Another one is Aura Contempt, which is coming in from our Imperial Noble. The Noble reduces target's morale by -1, increase their own morale by +1, and again we can modify abilities to use this. We can't change it in combat for now, but it's just another thing. But this one that's modify and bring it down, the target ally's damage dealt is increased by 7 minus target's morale divided by 2% for 1 round. So as you can see, these modifications will then come in and it will change how it works with some of our abilities. So if we now look to see what's going on in this combat, we can sort of start determining what we're going to do with our turn. So I, at the moment, only have access to some of my basic buffs, but like I said, you can do things like here. So this character is trying to interact with this to try and do it. If we can hear his arms, we can cancel his action to close the door. So I'll try to do that first. Unfortunately, we miss. But I can still open myself up to give an extra turn out now. I could potentially go for Cog, who's not in the best position, or I could go for my ally here, who might even be able to get a kill. So for now, I will start with that. And actually, I can decrease my enemy's morale to give ourselves bonuses to when we're attacking. Well, missed that first one, but we're guaranteed on that second one. So we had a big buff in morale here because we managed to get some kills, and then this will allow me to put guidance, which is another ability that I'll cover later on the other ally. So as we've now come around, we've managed to sort of change the impact of the battle, and because of our unique sniper, we'll actually be able to move after shooting, so we'll be able to keep going. Don't worry about the server skull pet, but that's not something to go in there. So this is going to be sort of how it works in combat. As we get those other abilities, there'll be a lot more going to it. Up here we have our overall morale victory, so this is when the party's morale is far superior to the enemies, we will actually win the combat outright, and that's why having someone that can manipulate morale is very important. And like I said, yes, the actual precision shots you get on some of these sniper rifles are exceedingly strong. So a thing that's worth showing off is how this class works in a high level encounter. So this is one of the heretic encounters in the alpha, and I wanted to show off how some of the morale manipulation works, seeing as you start off with incredibly low morale in this encounter, whereas you can see we're starting off with -3, and enemies here are getting huge bonuses to morale as their turns come around, which is a bit of a stinker for us, but we'll see what we can do in this combat to manipulate that. So things are already not looking good with a lot of debuffs coming in, a lot of enemy morale being put in, and a lot of effects coming up, especially with some concentration effects here.
Two ways. Which to choose?
So with the operative, I'm going to probably want to be just increasing the number of exploits that we've got on some enemy targets here, and seeing what I can do to set that up.
We'll have another key command for that. Left. Let's go left. Not afraid. I bet he have a roll.
So as you can see, I've set up here to start putting up some good morale, and I'm actually going to move a little bit to voice of command my ally here to give him a major buff to morale, and then I'm going to want to try and drop the enemy morale as much as I can possibly. There's a possible -4 that could come in here, which will therefore remove a lot of the boost that enemy was having, and then I can actually give over some extra morale to this ally here. Now with a precise shot, I might be able to, if I can hit one of these other areas, build up even more morale, or I could just attempt to go for the kill. But chances are I'm going to want the kill here. So that's given that ally quite the big buff to morale here, and potentially I could then start doing a little bit more damage to some of these enemies, or trying to armor strip, whatever might be best. Probably taking out this enemy here. So we've managed to turn morale a lot around for our sniper, so when it comes around to his next turn, chances are he's going to get heroic and start getting off some more shots. Now, to any enemies that are stunned, we will be able to get some really good precision shots in here. Because we'll be able to get those headshots in, we'll actually be able to get quite a bit of damage, though they are mostly protected from vitals damage.
A bit too early to go there.
And then we'll be able to pick someone to follow up on. And yes, this exceptional eye shot damage that's going to come in here. Yuka bringing in the flesh. And we might even be able to get a follow-up and kill another enemy, though we want to be a little bit careful where we end our turn, because chances are we'll get hit. So who's going to go next? This veteran up here is going to get some shots. And then this chap here. But we will be able to finish him off. Well, hopefully, because we're behind Cog will take those shots and they won't burst through and hit us. Very nice. That kept him alive. Now, another thing I can do here is I could potentially get Cog a boost so he isn't suffering negative morale, and he'll get quite a big boost when he comes back around to his turn. And if I want to guarantee that I'm going to take out one of these enemies, I can also drop some morale as well.
Through the whole game, because as an Inquisitor, Acolyte, we need to...
So we can go for a precision shot here, which if we hit the legs will give us a bit of morale manipulation for our character, but we miss, unfortunately.
We will look for Heresy.
We will look to finish it off ourselves.
So, yeah. We will have a lot of...
Going to try and make a headshot up here, which will have some good vitals point damage. Will actually give us access to a heroic. This will allow us to do some exceptional damage. The question is, are they within range? Unfortunately, that chap is beyond our range, so we're going to go and just see what we can do here. So potentially 175 there, and if we use it with the exploits, go for those eyes, 302 potential. So yeah, keeping up that morale buff is going to be something we're going to want to do. Now, another thing that we can use our officer to do is to obviously stop allies from burning to death, as this guy is about to. There we go. Now, potentially, we could buff someone else, but I don't really see many people in a good place. So what I can do is give a buff to our sniper, and then use the other one for get back in the fight to actually start getting him to get a little bit more movement.
As you can see,
The idea here is we're going to be moving him up to try and take off some shots against these enemies.
Select the part on which we'll aim. Dorsal, legs, arms.
And then we can even give over a heroic turn.
Low, but most likely it will be critical damage.
There is unfortunately no one currently within his Inquisitor's range, but let's have a look about possibly getting on some exploits. So again, we can go for the head here to try and increase our morale, which has actually given us access to our assassin heroic action. Again, showing off the wonderful uses of the officer, which I can then follow up to go for a eye shot here, potentially 500 damage.
Heal the cog.
Fantastic. More boost, more stacks, more wind.
As well.
And then I can keep moving him around, because eventually I'm going to want to be trying to hit the boss here. But I can also pop him into cover, which will help our squishy little operative survive. And this was all from the officer's turn. And we're also going to try and see what we can do when we try to hit this confessor. Now, we've got the opportunity to hit his eyes here, which potentially could just straight out kill him. And he doesn't even have any exploits on him. So let's see what we're going to do. Woof. So, with our lovely officer here, let's see what we can do most to a demon. So, we'll try to morale strip him, which has gone very well. We'll then try to morale buff an ally here, which again has also gone very well. So I'm going to go for 2 normal attacks. The reason for that is I want to try and get through this guy's armor as much as possible, so then we can go in with those vital points again. So then if we pop this up here, let's see what we can do going for an eye shot. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's going to hurt. And then we can follow up to demoralize another demon who could end up broken pretty quickly. Now, as for obviously showing off more of what we can do here with some morale manipulation, we break this target here, it can then end up attacking its own allies, or becoming staggered.
Here we are. Okay. On the tracks and save the hostages.
Being staggered will help us start trying to get through some of the damage here, but ideally we actually want to stagger more things. Now, with some of these enemies broken, let's see what we can do here. So we're going to go for the eyes, try and get through that ridiculous armor, try to stagger his friend, which we do. So we can go for the eyes on this one again. As we get closer to breaking that armor, we might be able to actually on his next turn do quite a bit of tasty damage.
So once again,
now, in accordance with trying to keep these allied buffs up, so we have had a fantastic opportunity to start doing some really serious damage here, which we are going to keep taking advantage of. Getting in those wonderful sales. And continuing to demoralize enemies. Just breaking demons like they're nothing. So as stated before, I believe morale manipulation is going to be the key to making a very powerful team in this game, and Officer seems to fit that just absolutely perfectly. Now, if we think this is going to be OP or not, I'm probably going to be tepid on this and say yes, but before I give overall answers, we'll have to see more of what they go with their direction for beta. But so far, it looks like Officer is going to be incredibly strong. It's going to have access to potentially incredibly high damage if you work with allies that also stun. And if you want to see combinations of that, do watch my complete livestream run where you'll be seeing my Officer doing 100 to 200 damage shots just by following up on allies that have provided stuns. So that's all I've got for you today. Let me know what your thoughts are so far, and I'll see you in the next video.